Today is an interesting day to discuss about a ban list. What is going on, YouTube? This is Platinum Point, and I'm here to bring you guys a discussion video. Today we're going to be going over the ban list for not just one trading card game, but two. We're going to be discussing the Weiss Schwarz ban list first, and then the recently released One Piece TCG ban list. So we're going to be first going over my thoughts on the Weiss Schwarz one, since that was released about a week ago during the recent summer conference video. So we're going to start off with some of the victims of the Weiss Schwarz ban list. So mainly the victims were the Rascal series, Seven Deadly Sins, and I think that's just about it. Oh yeah, and quintuplets. So we're gonna start off with the first victim in the Weiss Schwarz ban list, which is the Rascal series, with the 3/2 Mai being hit, literally getting old Yeller to the head. The year I spent with you, my Sakurajima, the finisher, the icy tail for, I think X number was like 2 if you have 3 or less of cards in memory with different name, and 3 times if you have 4 or more with different names. And it was an icy tail for 2, and for every climax revealed from each instance of icy tailing, 2 is a burn 2. So you essentially stacked 3 burns of burn 2 if you hit climaxes 3 times, which is actually pretty disgusting. It helped the deck. It was pretty much on that same level of Gura, that level of oppressiveness, because it could push through your opponent's compression really well, and comboing it with its resource tools like the 2/1 back row Mai that allowed you, if you triggered, for example, a door, to check the top card of their deck on the next attack after, like if you boarded triple Mai and one of them triggered on attack a door, you basically got to set up another Mai and potentially stick one of the 3s to level up by shoving a climax that was checked on the top to the bottom. So that way you could theoretically just icy tail the next hit, which is disgusting. And even though, like, as a Bunny Girl player, I do not like that it was hit to 2, I very much understand why. Because if the deck didn't get checked, it probably would still demolish once we get to the BCS season. Even though, like, in my opinion, I feel like by the time we get to the next BCS season, we probably would have figured out how to handle that matchup very well. But I think, just for the safety precaution and for the health of this game, the Mai did need to get hit to 2. And even with it hit to 2, the deck still performs well in Japan. And I will showcase to you guys later an updated list on how I would approach the deck, because that 3/2 Mai is by no means impossible. Like, instead of just pulling off 3 Mais, you're just pulling off 2, and it's by no means it's weaker, but it's by no means dead, the deck. So I will showcase how to play that deck and how to build it moving forward. The next victim that also gets the limit to 2 is the Seven Deadly Sins hit with the Elizabeth Brainstorm. This was honestly, this was one of the things that I wanted to get hit on the ban list for Seven Deadly Sins, because they already hit the I think they hit the Escanor, they hit the stock swap, the Fukajiro. Oh no, they didn't hit the Escanor. They hit the top 3 check bouncer. They hit the Fukajiro, not Fukajiro, the Fumio, and they also hit the stock swap in the last ban list, but they forgot to hit the other Fumio, and I still think that other Fumio should also have gotten hit, struck down, because the deck can still decompress even if it is a lot more, like, because, like, it still has access to decompression tools, which is a very dangerous part in the game, and it's basically still can do it even with 2 Elizabeth. Like, Elizabeth should, honestly, I felt like Elizabeth should have been banned, or because, like, even with 2 copies, you just have to retool your deck speed package in the deck in order to basically kind of in order to make up for the loss of potentially spamming like playing all 4 on the board and then just milling 4 to salvage off of the climax combo. And I think it just makes the deck less consistent, and it forces the players to innovate in order to survive. And I feel like the Elizabeth build, I think, may still be played. I don't know yet. Haven't honestly tested 7 Deadly Sins in a long time, and I probably not going to, but I wouldn't be surprised if people already started cooking on how to address that ban list and how to address that deck. Because let's be honest, like SDS was probably one of the best sets for English exclusives next to Avatar. I think Avatar with the Sokka being like in the deck made the set one of the scariest. And then for SDS, it was just a bunch of things. It was just a bunch of good cards. And I think this should probably check at least this variant of SDS. I would not be surprised if there's more innovations coming up in the future. I would not be surprised, honestly, because they do have some really good level 1 combos if they decide to forego the Elizabeth level 0. So there are ways for this deck to be successful, and I just think that it just requires players to actually explore the others. And when we had set 2, when this Brainstormer along with the level 1 Shadow Clone Melodious, it kind of like essentially simplified the deck building strategy and made it where people just kind of float into one. Heck, even I was like trying to find different ways to play the deck before I got rid of it. And honestly, I think this is a good opportunity for 7 Deadly Sins players to innovate. So honestly, this was a necessary hit, even if other people may disagree. And then the other one, which really hurt me, as I'm a quintessential quintuplets player, is the hit to the 8 standby Nino deck. I already had a feeling that the Foolish Burial would have been like put on the choice restriction, but I did not anticipate my favorite 3/2 also being tossed in there. I felt like they would have left the 3/2 alone, because this deck does not have any decompression tools in the first place. So like 8 standby Quints was like just pretty much an all aggro deck that focused on deck speeding, but it could never decompress your opponent. So like the best way to beat Quints was to just manage your compression and win, and like just win through attrition. Like that was the best way to beat the deck. And I felt like hitting both the Foolish Burial and the 3/2 Nino on this choice restrict really did kind of, it didn't put the nail in the coffin in the deck. I'm still testing, like, heck, it's one of the reasons why I haven't released a reaction to this ban list, was because I was trying to figure out like how do I make this deck work, because there are ways to do it. I've even tried it before, like how do we build Quints post premium booster, and now it just kind of forces you to kind of think about like how do you innovate the Nino deck, the 8 standby deck, to be successful. And I think it also gives room for other Quints decks to shine. Like I know that the Ichika one is a pretty strong one, as much as I don't like Ichika, but it allows Quints to diversify, even if my favorite deck does take a backseat. I'm still gonna be messing around, and I'll show you guys what I would do for that damage report for that deck, because I do think the deck it's not dead. It's just you need to really seriously think about how to put this deck together and what's going to be the strategy moving forward. And then we have 2 sets that got unrestricted, or at least some unrestrictions. We'll start with the first one, my favorite one, Data Live. We finally got both the Brainstormer and the Yoshino off the ban list. We're still waiting for Kurumi to come off the ban list, because let's be honest, like, some people may disagree with me, but I think Kurumi could come back, only because she's been power creep to high heaven, and she was a finisher that required 2 turns to kill, while most finishers nowadays can just kill from 1 turn when properly set up. With Kurumi, you can only, like, with proper setup, it takes 2 turns to kill with Kurumi, which is one of the reasons why Dao was such a difficult, like, not, even though it was oppressive at the time, it was still one of the most difficult decks to play, because you had to know you have to know when to time your effects and when to time when to like time that close that game finisher. And I'm just gonna be very honest. I'm glad that at least the brainstorm and the Yoshino will come back. I may do a deck profile, but I'm waiting for Fujimi to come out and possibly the announcement of Dead Alive Volume 3. I know it's coming out in Japan soon, so I hope we get it, because I already saw some of the leaks, and I'm kind of looking forward to see what they'll do for 8 Standby, because this deck really deserves some love. Like, for the past few sets, they gave the other characters support, which is great, and I actually like the other builds, but I want to see, like, if you're gonna hit, like, in my opinion, I always say, if you're gonna hit one of your main, like, your marketed meta builds, you have to give an alternative after you hit it, so that way within that framework, not just building other like climax lines, you want to still support it somehow, in my opinion, just so you can allow people who invested money, like myself. Really, I didn't care about that part, but like for those who had invested money into building that 8 standby deck, I wish they did throw us a bone in the previous sets. More of like a substantial one where we can still kind of stand on 2 legs, because one of the issues with the hit with the Kurumi hit to 2 is the deck didn't really have good off finishers, like non-climax combo finishers to help them like close the game out. And like essentially you were like banking on the 3-2 Kurumi to help you in most games, and now that it's at 2, it's very difficult to do that. But honestly, I'm happy with this release restriction. I'm grateful that now I get to play it at semi full power, so I hope to experiment with the new stuff. And then the last victim to finally be released from her prison after how many years, Kaguya, with the Chika and the Hayasaka. The Chika Riki and the Hayasaka drop search are finally like allowed to be together again. Honestly, this should have happened a long time ago. With this, now Kaguya can actually increase in consistency, and we may see different builds. I'm actually trying to tweak. I know in Japan when they released the 2, they went back to the standby door build. I may do a profile on that, but I wanted to see what the new how I can integrate the Chika, the level 0 Chika into the newer packages to see if they can be successful there. So I'm gonna be messing around with that, and then hopefully doing a standby door build. So pretty much that's it for that part of the ban list. For Weiss Schwarz, it's going to take into effect on the 22nd, which will be tomorrow as of uploading, which will be the day after tomorrow, which I am uploading this vid. By the time you see this, it's going to be the 21st. So hopefully by the next day we'll see what people are experimenting. I've been taking the time to experiment prior to this ban list, so I'll show you what I've been kind of cooking. I will also be doing kind of like a discussion on what's going to be the top tier for Weiss Schwarz in this upcoming season moving forward, so keep an eye out for that video. So now we're going to talk about One Piece. Oh boy, oh fucking boy, because yeah, so for those who probably are familiar with One Piece TCG, the boogeyman at the time in I think set 11, OP 11, was the blue purple Luffy, and god, I was playing against that so many times, and I hated to play against that matchup. Heck, I hated it so much I wanted to figure out how to play around it by playing the deck. I was going to do a profile on it, but thanks to this ban list, I'm thinking of switching around my video upload schedule for One Piece, so we'll wait about that. But yeah, so what they hit for this one is, it's actually a pretty interesting hit, which is it's similar to a Weiss Schwarz choice restriction, except basically it's essentially you get to choose one of 3, essentially. But how they word it is, if you're gonna play the blue purple Luffy leader, you cannot have either the 8-drop Katakuri or the 9-drop Big Mom. And so basically, if you're gonna run the leader, you can't run those 2 cards. So it's like a choice restriction of 3 in a sense for the archetype, which is really nice. It makes the deck it cuts the deck's spammability and survivability down, and it forces the deck to change its strategy to be a little bit more of an aggro deck, which is going to be very interesting to see moving forward. I am gonna keep an eye on it to see what innovations both Japan and on the West have for this deck. I still think some blue purple Luffy players will pick up this deck and just continue trying it. And then the one card that actually did get banned finally was the blue Nami deck. The blue Nami leader, at least the current version of the blue Nami leader, got hit, which I am honestly happy with that. I didn't like, as much as I know it's a necessary part in any trading card game to have alternate win conditions, just playing against a Nami player always felt like just an annoyance, because one of the ways you handle this deck is either you swing very aggressively or you swing very wide and hope that they don't have the counters to just survive you out. And that's the weakness of the deck, is like if you don't have multiple attacks or if you're not swinging huge numbers all the time, they're gonna get out of it and they're gonna just mill their deck. And that's one thing I don't like about that is I never liked mill strategies. Even when during my time in Yu-Gi-Oh, mill strategies was always, I know a lot of people, I know people who like that strategy will disagree with me, but it's just my own personal opinion. It doesn't take that much necessarily skill. I know there is skill in that deck because I've seen a lot of good Nami players and a lot of bad Nami players, but just to me, as a personal preference, I never liked playing that kind of deck, and I never liked playing against those decks, because the only point of interaction that your opponent will have in those situations is trying to empty their deck out and deny you advantage from trying to kind of combat that strategy, which I felt like was very But they are going to reprint it to have a restriction. It's going to have still the same win condition effect, but it's going to now be restricted to East Blue, and moving, which is, I think, is a fair thing to do, because honestly, it shouldn't have access to all like non-East Blue mill cards, because it makes the deck just totally unfair, and totally uninteractive in my opinion. But again, I don't mind it. I don't mind Nami being around. I feel like it's a necessary evil. It's just personally, as a player, when I play against it, I never really enjoy the matchup. And it's not even, and I have no hard feelings, or I don't disparage any Nami players. So if you feel offended, I'm sorry. It's just my own personal opinion of the deck. By no means that you are a lesser player for playing the deck. I just don't like it. Plain and simple. If you like the deck, you genuinely like it, you genuinely like the strategy, more power to you. I just wouldn't play it myself. And then now this is kind of interesting, because I actually got to dodge this period because I was so busy with other things at the time. The Sakazuki meta, when Sakazuki was oppressive, I only got to play it against that deck twice, and I didn't like it because it had so many ways of removal. And it's going to be interesting now that Ice Age is banned and it lost a lot of its consistency, also with Gecko Moria gone. So it's going to be interesting to see how Sakazuki players innovate this deck. I think it's fine for it to come back, even with the errata available too. Like, I think the fact that Marco can do a similar filtering effect and it's around, I feel like it's fine for Sakazuki to be around too, especially since moving forward we're going into a very aggro format. We do need more kind of like balanced board removal based decks, and with the hits to black and blue, it's gotten to the point where it's a lot more fairer, their ability to remove, in my opinion. So I'm kind of looking forward to seeing how One Piece players kind of interact with this, and I'm might be interested in picking up and trying to build Sakazuki myself, because I love the blue black strategy as well as the red blue strategy. I just like control decks in general. I'm very much a mid range and control player from my times in Yu-Gi-Oh and in even Pokemon. I like mid range and control. And then lastly, the last card that gets unbanned is Kabaji. Oh my god, now buggy players get more consistency with the deck, and I think it's fine because come OP12, I feel like buggy needs all the resources it can in order to be relevant, because we're going to be entering a very aggressive format, and with Green Zoro being able to, in a sense, force buggies to spam blockers to protect themselves is going to be very, very interesting. And I'm kind of curious like how it's going to handle the Rayleigh matchup too. I haven't yet played against those two decks, so I'm even curious myself how I would navigate those two decks. I'm actually interested in picking up the Green Zoro deck just because it looks interesting and I want to learn it. So who knows? But so far that is it for the One Piece ban list. I know they're going to be there's going to be interesting developments post OP12 and PRB2, so I'm kind of interested in seeing how that game develops. So normally I would separate the two videos, but today, since yesterday when I found out the ban list came out, I wanted to say, hey, you know what, I'm going to talk about these two at the same time, because both of these, it just is an example that no matter what game you play, no deck is safe from a restriction / ban list. There has to be some level in order to promote healthy gameplay. So I hope you guys like this video. The next video I'm going to be talking about is going to be a sort of reflection video. If you guys saw my YouTube short that I posted a couple days ago, I had my first trade night as a vendor last week Friday, and I want to do a reflection on it and my thoughts behind it and what I learned from my first trade night as a vendor, because that's something that I've been kind of interested, like that's something I want to do moving forward, besides just playing the game, but also like participating in the trading card game as kind of like a not a backpack vendor, but like as a trade show vendor, so I can go over there and check out and interact with people who enjoy card games, not just from playing but also collecting. So I will be doing a video regarding that in the near future. Other than that, I want to thank you guys for sticking along with this video. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. False crack that like button. I mean it. False crack it. And stay on point, guys. Peace out.